আমাদের অনেক ধরনের পাবলিকেশন আছে দেখা যায় না তো লাগে আমাদের আপনি জয়েন করেন মোহন ভাই আমি কি লিংক পাঠাইছি না হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ ঠিক আছে স্যার একটা লিংক তুমি মিউট করেন
হ্যাঁ দাঁড়ান করতেছি
here today to present to you, to have a speech to you, and to be invited as a speaker. And yeah, indeed, an honor to me. And I want to, first of all, as well, thank very specifically Yvonne Stein for, yeah, let's say, reaching out to me and approaching me in this regard. And maybe you allow me to a few introductory remarks on the institution that I'm representing, give you a brief introduction to AKR, European Export and Trade Bank, because I believe it is indeed a unique institution. It's a unique institution in Germany. It is also a unique institution, I believe, in Europe, and might even serve as a model for Bangladesh, who knows. And the bank was founded in 1953 by German institutions, by German banks, in order to provide liquidity to the then revitalizing activities of the German export industry. And we have obviously through all these years, nearly 70 years, constantly modernized and changed, but I want to work out two aspects I think that are really specific. First of all, AKR is an institution that solely focuses on export and trade finance, and therefore it's a specialized financial institution. And secondly, I would like to highlight that we have a very broad shareholder base consisting of nowadays 17 financial institutions as shareholders. Our shareholders are all dominant banks from Germany on the one end, which is Deutsche, Commerz, LBBW, KfW, IPEX, there are many of them, but they are as well European institutions like UniCredit and like the most recent addition, which is ING Bank. So I can say that AKR has indeed a very strong footprint in what I would call the German and European export finance industry. And the shareholder base that we have as well determines our operating model, which is really specific because it's a model of a complementary process of working together with our shareholders in order to bring finance facilities and trade finance on export finance alive. And we do that in different roles. We can take on risk, but we also arrange transactions. And just highlighting a little bit our level of activity in Bangladesh. Bangladesh for us is indeed an important market. And I can tell you that the bank provided roughly €500 million in trade finance in the last 5 years, and more or less the same amount together with certain shareholders of the bank in terms of export finance to Bangladesh within the last 5 years, to be honest. And let me maybe expand just one additional aspect of myself. I'm as well having the pleasure of being advisor to an interministerial committee that is the decision-making body for Euler Hermes guarantees governed by the Ministry of Economics here in Germany. I do that for many years, so I can probably say I'm as well very much into the export finance community. Let me now come maybe to the main subject of today's speech, which is digitization on the one hand and the conversion of energy resources on the other hand. And I believe I can say, if I look into my own portfolio, I would say, of strategic challenges, it's already for quite a while, indeed, digitization on the one hand and ESG, environmental, social, and governance impact are the two main driving forces in terms of strategic challenges. And I think that are challenges that are affecting all organizations, being it financial institutions, corporates, and governments these days. And to bring up the subject of COVID-19, that is as well part of today's, I think, meeting here, I can say that COVID-19 hasn't really changed that at all in terms of these are priority topics, but COVID-19 has put on both of them, I believe, much more emphasis. And we can see that, having proven as well by today, where we are coming together here in this virtual format, the digitization, especially in the recent months, has tremendously changed all our lives, our personal lives, but as well our corporate lives to a certain and good degree. And I want to give you one example in order to work out a little bit what are the effects of digitization. And I take that example from the bank. And AKR, although a relatively small institution, we are investing relatively heavily since 2 years into digitization. And it's like 2.5, 3 years ago, where we decided to build up a digital infrastructure in order to provide a solution to so-called small ticket export finance transactions. There was from the market kind of feeling that there's a deficiency in the market to provide transactions in the volume of 1 to 10 million euros, which are targeting at foreign corporates as borrowers. And that is driven purely by the fact that it is obviously still, export finance is still a relatively complex product. And so obviously the costs for implementing transactions at a smaller scale were for many players in the market prohibitive. We built up that infrastructure, and today we are in a situation that exporters in Germany can onboard to RKR's digital portal, and then they can communicate directly with RKR and provide, for example, financing requests. And what we can deliver today is then, in an optimum case, that within seconds, the exporter has a financing offer on his table, a financing offer that he can put together with his technical bid in order to deliver a full package to his client, to his importer, and therefore a very important improvement, I think, for his negotiations. And what have we gained, and what is might be as well interesting to Bangladesh in general terms, is I would like to expand a bit on 4 effects. One effect being efficiency. And what you do through digitization, you're going through your, I would say, process landscape, and you're trying to reorder, to ease up that landscape in order to make it, turn it into a digital solution. So that in itself is already a very important part, and it improves efficiency to a certain and partially large degree. It also had the effect for us, and I think that is very interesting. We created a new market or market segment to the bank. Last year, 2020, was the first year where we had this product going for the first full year. And the results of that to us are very promising, and is as well very promising for the positioning of the bank. What we do as well is, very important factor, we reach completely new reach to the client base. We brought our portal as well to our shareholder institutions, at least to a few so far. And nowadays, some of our shareholder banks can, in delivering to their clients, work on our digital infrastructure, and we will provide financing offers and execute transactions based on that scheme. So they can deliver more to their client base, which makes them obviously pleased and happy. But we as well have created a completely different reach. And if you look into our shareholder base, we today can indirectly link to all of Germany's corporates, for example, and to certain areas as well in Europe. An additional and very important aspect, especially an important aspect, I think, in the surrounding that we all live in, being determined by COVID-19, is it creates additional resilience to the model. Our model can be worked completely from remote, so people can work at home in home office, and they can do the same procedures that they did before in the offices. So it keeps the organization more resilient to external shocks like the one we have to experience for the time being. And that is important because we have already a very quick credit decision-making process here in the institution. I can tell you that in 2020, by further introduction of digital approaches here, we could further limit this and lower the time we need for credit decision-making process. So from our experience in implementing finance facilities to Bangladesh, I would really say that, and don't take me wrong, but efficiency definitely need to be gained. The time needed in order to implement facilities is by far too long to be efficient. So there is a need by the financial institutions to gain efficiency. There is as well that by reaching out to corporates that we can gain efficiency, from my perspective, with a prerequisite that these corporates need to be transparent in terms of financial auditing, so we need international auditing standards to do so. But it as well reaches out, if I may say so, to linked regulatory bodies like the BIDA approval process that has, from our experience, improved, but still needs improvement in order to facilitate the quick implementation of facilities. And let's make that clear, export finance is a very good product in order to finance capital goods and important investments, because you receive long tenors. So I think it's an important goal to really, by as well introducing digitization, improving that implementation period. And you can see that as well if you're looking in the portfolio of Euler Hermes, if I may take that example. The years 2018 and 19 saw a decent deal volume as well implementing. It was not really as big as it could be or as large as it could be. But if we look into 2020, everything more or less came to a halt. And that's what I mean by creating more resilience in the system. I think it's an important goal. And I can tell you that for the time being, for example, there's a volume of more than 300 million pre-committed by Euler Hermes that is not implemented. Some of these requests dating back to 2019. And I think that underlines very well that there's a need to improve. And if we're looking into the structure, what is financed by export finance these days, and as well, if we look into the portfolio of transactions that are pre-committed, we can see as well, and that leads us directly to the next subject, to the conversion of power generation. We can see that 60% of that volume, more or less, roughly 60%, are linked to power projects. But by my knowledge, all these projects are still using fossil fuels like diesel fuel, and therefore creating carbon dioxide emissions. And that is also, and I fully understand that, driven by the fact of the specifics, geographic specifics of your country. But I believe still that it is necessary to strengthen the activities in order to put more emphasis on renewable energies. And let me just underline why. I think we are at the stage where the transformation to sustainable economy gains important momentum, especially in Europe. You might be aware that Europe has decided to be a carbon-free, emission-free zone by 2050, which is not that many years in the future, but is also, I believe, a globally very important development. And I can tell you or share with you that I yesterday had the chance to be present in a web-based meeting with the Egyptian Minister of Electricity and Renewable Energy. And he outlined the plan of Egypt to, as first of all, become completely independent from any external deliveries in energy, which is an important factor, I believe, and even change by production of green hydrogen into a country that will export energy in the future. Decarbonization of the economy is a priority, and power production, being the main source of carbon emissions today, is in this priority list #1. And there's as well, and I want to make that crystal clear, there's a radical change as well in the financial industry. As I said before, that is the most important strategic goal at the time being. You can see that financial institutions are as well competing in terms of who's creating the greener financing approach here in banking. And it is as well coming with the fact that in the European Union, we have created the EU taxonomy as what is, I would say, a classification system for a sustainable economy and economic activity. And it gives the effect, it shows you, or you can distinguish between all the projects by this taxonomy, if it's a negative impact, has a neutral impact, or has a positive impact in terms of sustainable economy and effect on the environmental impact. That will steadily and to a fast speed really more and more become a vital and important topic in the financial side and in the corporate side And I can underline that as well by the fact, for example, that in Germany this year as well, AKA, we are for the first time asked to provide a report on our carbon footprint of our credit exposure. And this is from a regulatory point of view, not yet very strict, but it shows you the development direction. I can tell you as well that we at the moment in Germany in a ministerial committee that decides on Euler Hermes in a pilot phase, where indeed we're not only discussing, I would say, the economic impact or role of a borrower in granting cover, but where we start as well with view to the EU taxonomy to bring or analyze the projects under consideration in their footprint and impact in the goals that the EU has set. And it is very clear that this development will go further in, on the one end, preventing certain activities, which they do already from Germany for coal and coal-related power production, and preventing, but as well creating benefits in the future that in a green financing, you will be able to receive either better pricing or better conditions as well in order to grant cover. Technology is, from my perspective in this regard, really developing quickly and giving more possibilities even as well in difficult surroundings. And let's face it as well in economic terms, because if you look into wind energy projects, for example, in Germany, there is no longer state subsidy needed in order to here produce power at a viable base on its own, for example, in wind energy. And I can say and tell you as well, which I think is a positive outlook, that in this regard, in the conversion and transformation of the economies of the world, ECA covered finance, export credit agency backed financing, will play a very vital and important role. The investment needs are enormous. Enormous if you only look into Europe, but in even more of that if you're looking into a global surrounding. And I think it's a very positive outlook that we have strong partners like the ECAs here available to cover support. So let me, ladies and gentlemen, just briefly summarize. I think the main challenges today, as I said, is climate change and obviously as well digitization are challenges, but at the same time, I believe they are fantastic opportunities. And why don't we work together in order to further develop the world here by using more digitization, by using as well export finance in order to finance needed financial and capital goods to Bangladesh, to provide the necessary support in order to reduce the carbon footprint as well of the Bangladeshi industry, and let us especially finance the needed conversion in power production that is, I think, imperative, especially as well for Bangladesh, which obviously is affected heavily, at least potentially, by climate change. And I can just tell you from my end, but I think I speak for many of our shareholders, I probably speak as well for Standard Chartered, we would be very happily to support that process. And I can tell you that we stand in this regard truly by you, but it will require a regulatory framework that really supports that development as well. I think that's the result as well from Europe at the time being. Regulatory measurements are a necessity in this regard. And I can say as well that I believe, coming back to the nature of Bangladesh and German cooperation here, that Germany, from its experience as well from the so-called Energiewende, where we have already at the time being more than 50% of our energy produced by renewable energy sources, that we can really bring a lot of experience, know-how, and technology to the table. And we from the banking side will be happy to provide the necessary financing in that regard. Thank you very much.
But the topic was so interesting, and I think all the distinguished people who are participating are really enjoying what you have been saying. So So thank you very much for a very candid impression that you have given about how we should take from the present situation during the COVID period to a next stage. Before I give the floor to Ms. Christine Jordan, the president of the BGCCI, I can see him on the screen. Can I request the president if he wants to say a few words? President, you have the floor, sir. President, can you hear me? Please unmute yourself. Please note that all of you are in the Facebook. There's a live Facebook going on at the same time. President, you have the floor, sir. Can't see the president? Okay. So if the president is not yet there, so I would request Ms. Christine Jordan, the head of the Structured Export Finance, to please take the floor, and if she could share her thoughts, especially she wants to talk about macroeconomics effects of the COVID. Please go ahead. You have the floor, ma'am.
It is an honor. Many thanks for inviting us to speak to this distinguished audience. My name is Christine Jordan, and I run the Structured Export Finance activities for Standard Chartered Bank AG in Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. In the context of today's webinar, Post-COVID Economic Relations between Bangladesh and Germany, my colleague Anubhuti will first give an outlook on the development, on the economic development as we expected as a bank and the drivers behind it. And just after that, I will outline the structured finance mechanisms that Mark also pointed to already, and how these are beneficial to the post-COVID economic relations between Bangladesh and Germany, particularly the financing of investments in post-COVID era in Bangladesh. And we will do so by using an example of a real project by one of our clients that is active in Bangladesh, incorporated in Bangladesh. And to this end, I have asked a market-leading equipment manufacturer, a German one, to co-present with me. That would be Mr. Panik just afterwards. But for the moment, may I please give the floor to Anubhuti, and let me try to share my screen.
Thanks, Christine, and good afternoon, good morning, and good evening, everyone. As mentioned by Christine, I will talk about that is at Standard Chartered Global Research, how we think the global economy would look like in next 12 months. We will have a special focus on Bangladesh and Euro area. Now, to start with, we can go to slide 1, Christine. I'm not sure if everyone can see Christine's screen and the slide pack. Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, sure. So if we go to slide 2, as you can very clearly see, we expect global GDP growth at 4.8%. This is significantly higher than the last decade's average of 3.7%. There are two distinctive features about the growth forecast which we have for next 12 months. First of all, as you can see in the slide pack, Asia is expected to lead the recovery. And within Asia, of course, China and India are expected to grow at very robust rate. US and Europe are also expected to do much better in 2021 and also in 2022.
Anubhuti, let me just interrupt. Can I request Christina to actually move the slides? It's only the cover slide is being shown now.
Yes, slides are not visible.
Christine, can you move to the second slide, please?
There seems I have done so, but can you see the next slide or not? Otherwise, I would ask the admin team.
No.
Sometimes happens with Zoom. Yeah.
Okay, Mrs. Stein, you have the presentation. It does not move on. Can you maybe show it? Because it does show the right slide on my screen. I'm very sorry for that.
No problem. These are the glitches. We are quite used to it. We can come back again. I think we cannot see the slides. Can you see the slides?
Let me try once again, but it did show correctly. Can you see it now?
No.
Just give it a few seconds.
Not exactly. I think we have some glitches, which is.
Can you see my slide, my screen, please?
Actually,
Excuse me?
Rakib, he also has a copy. So if you, Rakib, kindly put it on.
Can you see my screen, please?
Nobody,
Give a few seconds. Few seconds.
Can I request you to share your screen? That will be better. Anubhuti,
That's what she's doing.
Okay.
I did that. So is it visible? Please let me know. Then I'll restart. Sorry for this whole inconvenience.
No, not at all.
It's taking a few seconds. Let's wait.
Yeah, okay, no problem.
Mute করে নিছি। Yeah,
Anubhuti, maybe you want to talk through the slides. If it comes, it becomes visible. We'll see that.
That's a good point.
Yeah, why don't you start?
Go ahead with your
Sure.
what you want to say.
Absolutely. I'll not waste time. Okay. So, just to restart, we expect global growth in 2021 at 4.8%. This is significantly higher than the last decade's average of 3.7%. Now, our global growth outlook for 2021 has two distinctive features. First of all, it's led by Asian economies. So Asia is expected to grow at a much stronger pace relative to its 10-year average. And here, a lot of growth buoyancy is expected from China as well as India. US and Europe are also expected to do well both in 2021 and 2022, but not as robustly as Asia. And the reason is pretty clear. First been that Asian economies or emerging markets in general have benefited a lot from recent improvement in global trade. So I'm not sure if you're able to see the slide here. Global trade has rebounded at a much faster pace than global in comparison to global financial crisis, and bulk of the benefits have flown to emerging economies. And we think that global trade will remain a supportive factor for emerging markets, including Asian economies in 2021, especially with the new US president. The other reason why we think Asia is likely to do better is because Asia has been, at least till now, I have to use that phrase, at least till now, has been able to manage the COVID situation far better than US and Europe. US and Europe are still struggling with high infection rates as we speak, and there is a risk of double-dip recession in Eurozone area, according to our view. We do expect an improvement in US and Europe, but we think that's likely to be a story of second half of 2021. And the growth improvement in both US and Europe in the second half of 2021 is likely to be extremely robust. This we expect because our view is that bulk of the population, both in US as well as in Europe, are likely to be vaccinated by the end of 2021, because they already have pre-existing arrangement with the vaccine manufacturers. And when compared to Asian economies or African economies, the size of their population is relatively small. So they will be able to vaccinate faster than Asian economies, and their growth are likely to pick up much better, but that's likely to come only in the second half of 2021. The second distinctive feature of our growth projection, that is of 4.8% in 2021, is that lot is a statistical rebound. Because 2020 was a bad year, where most of the economies saw very deep recessionary trends, 2021 will see a rebound, but that's more a reflection of statistical rebound along with improving economic activity. The dead weight loss to global growth will take time to fade away in our view. What we mean by dead weight loss is that according to our estimates, what we have in slide 5 on the left-hand chart is that we believe that the global economy, after growing at 4.8% in 2021, will reach the same size as it was in December 2019. So by end of December 21, the size of the global economy will be same as it was in December 2019. Effectively, it implies 2 lost years for the world at large. And that's a massive loss. There will be few exceptions, no doubt about it. So China will be an exception. Bangladesh will also be an exception because these economies have been able to grow in the positive territory. But other economies like US will take longer, and Eurozone in fact reaches the same size of 2019 GDP only in 22, not even in 2021. So given the differential pace of recovery, given that the deadweight loss is pretty large, we expect policymakers across the world to remain supportive of nascent recovery. Moving to Eurozone, as I mentioned, we do expect growth to improve in both 2021 as well as in 2022. So these are our forecast, 4% in 21 and 3.7% in 2022. And we expect monetary policy and fiscal policy to remain supportive. But of course, within EU, there will be differential pace of recovery, amongst the countries. So countries like Germany will recover or are expected to recover at a faster pace because they are relatively less infected compared to, say, some other economies like, say, Spain, etc. And also they have few structural advantages in their favor. For instance, the household savings in Germany is pretty high. But overall, when we look at EU as a region, a sense is that growth will pick up from second half of 2021, but will take longer than US to completely fade away the dead weight loss. In contrast, Bangladesh was able to grow in the positive territory last year, and we also expect it to grow at 5.7%, so plus 5.7% for the year ending June 2021. For next year, we expect it to grow at plus 7%. So extremely impressive numbers, especially when you compare it to other economies. And a lot of growth support or faster revival has come because it is hugely household consumption expenditure driven. Its net exports also was supportive, along with very strong remittances inflow. And I think when we compare Bangladesh to other economies, especially in the South Asian space, say India, Bangladesh entered this pandemic on a stronger footing. So it has been able to cope up much better. And we believe that the recovery will be decent over the next 12 to 24 months. Having said that, when you compare Bangladesh's growth since FY20 till say FY22, it will still be lower than what Bangladesh achieved 3 years before the pandemic, which was an average of 7.7%. So there is some bit of loss because of the pandemic, but nevertheless, Bangladesh will still emerge as one of the outperformers amongst the Asian economies. We remain extremely constructive on Bangladesh over medium term. And the way it has coped up well during the pandemic year, we continue to remain extremely constructive. Having said that, I think it's important to remember, and this was also referred in the initial remarks, the world, we are still not out of woods. There is a vaccine, but we still need to look at the path and remain cautious of the path, which will finally lead us to an end of the pandemic. We are still far away from that. Even after the pandemic ends, the world will be left highly leveraged, both the corporates and the government. And protectionism, even with the new president, is unlikely to go away. Thus, it becomes extremely important for all countries, including Bangladesh, to prepare for a different normal over the next few decades. And in this regard, we believe that Bangladesh needs to diversify its exports basket, as well as diversify probably its export destination too. Currently, almost 60% of its exports are headed to Europe. Another odd 20% heads to US, and almost 90% of exports to EU are textiles. So there is a heavy concentration, in the export basket as well as the destination of exports, and there is a need to diversify both. This becomes extremely crucial if we just stretch our horizon from next 12 to 24 months towards a decade, because Bangladesh will be graduating from the LDC, or least developed country level. And our sense is that it will be phased out from international support measures from 2027. Once that happens, there will be a gradual withdrawal of GSP, which in turn can lead to higher tariffs of around 6 to 7% for most of the Bangladeshi exports, 20% if those exports are headed to EU. There can be challenges around concessional finance, and also, the export basket can also come under some pressure. Hence, it becomes imperative for Bangladesh, in our view, to negotiate preferential treatment either with international organization or, a GSP with the EU. Obviously, Bangladesh will also have to work on other areas to boost macroeconomic stability and quality of governance, like any other economy. And given the LDC graduation, this becomes very urgent, because the GSP is likely to be phased out in this decade itself. Based on a 2019 survey, Bangladesh is considered as the third most, it's the third most preferred destination for companies who are looking to shift out of China. So manufacturing shifting out of China, obviously Vietnam and Cambodia are the top two, and Bangladesh is the third most preferred destination. There is a lot of potential, and in order to translate this interest into actual FDI, more measures will be required to improve the ease of doing business, because the ease of doing business and net FDI inflow in any country, there is a clear, positive correlation. As it improves, we see higher FDI inflows. So in a nutshell, I would say that the economic relationship between Bangladesh and EU has worked very well. In fact, Bangladesh has been one of the few economies which did exceedingly well despite the pandemic, and we remain constructive on the future outlook. However, this is the time to consolidate, but at the same time to prepare for a better future, and to hope that the next few decades are as shining as the previous decade was. With that, I'll take a pause and pass it on to Christine. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anubhuti. And I'm just checking, can you keep sharing your screen and showing my presentation, or does the Zoom host, Ragbig Hassan, want to do it? Anubhuti, if you have a chance, then that would be much appreciated. If not, I can go ahead and we'll do the same as earlier. If the slides come up, it's great. If not, I will depict it with my hands. So as we have heard from Anubhuti, there are various reasons to be very positive and to keep investing post-COVID as well. But there's also challenges at the horizon, inter alia through the graduation from NLDC, which namely could actually represent a potential loss of access to concessional finance, right? This together with the situation where we say positively keep investing, and on the other hand, well, we need financing to invest in that CapEx, that brings the ECA, or the structured expert finance, to light, exactly, and exactly what Mark mentioned and alluded to before. So if I may just quickly, ECA, as Mark said earlier, stands for Export Credit Agency, and for the German exporters, this export promoting agency would be called Euler Hermes. So in basically what it does, it is a financing that is there to finance a commercial contract that your good company would be negotiating with an equipment manufacturer, in our case from Germany. And the positive advantage of it is that the bank that will be happy to provide that financing will be in a situation to offer longer terms and better terms than if it didn't benefit from a guarantee. I'll show that in the next slide, but for the moment, from your perspective, so your esteemed company perspective, why think about an ECA financing as an alternative CapEx financing? We've said there is the background will be a CapEx requirement, be it for growing your business or be it just for switching production due to change trends, be it from COVID or from other mega trends out there. Thanks to the guarantee which I will outline earlier, the all-in, so meaning the margin as well as the premium cost that will be spread over the margin. So the all-in cost shall always be very competitive for your company compared with other sources available. I think one of the, to me, clearest advantages is the long tenors that can be offered. So namely, it is the construction period or the delivery period, however you want to call it, with repayment tenors of up to 14 years, depending on the sector. I would say very generally would be 10 years, depending on the sector, 14 years, and for very special sectors such as renewable projects, it can go up to 18 years. Those financings are available in most of the freely convertible currencies. And I think the second strongest advantage that I would like to show your companies is the fact that this financing is structured in a way that it shall match the cash flows of your project from the beginning to the end, meaning that you will have drawdowns available as the deliveries and as the partial commissionings work, thus reducing negative carry that you might have with other financing sources that you could have tapped for it, and the amortizing nature of the repayment schedule will, which actually only starts 6 months after the commissioning of your new plant or your new production facility, right? Also naturally match the cash flows of your project. So to me, this is really one of the strongest arguments why it is definitely worth thinking about it as an alternative financing source for your CapEx. And last but not least, it is, it represents a diversification to your regular funding sources. Thank you very much, Anup. If you could just go to the next slide. So, and this is just to have it brought to light the typical buyer's credit financing structure. So what do we mean by buyer's credit financing structure? If you look at the yellow box, it says borrower/buyer. So as I was saying, this financing is tied to a commercial contract. It's there to make a commercial contract happen. So if we start looking at it, your company would be the buyer of some, capital, of some production equipment. And number one, that we see there, it will be negotiations around a commercial contract with a supplier. And the supplier will hear in 2 minutes from here. One example is Oerlikon. So, and to make this project happen, and from the idea of the export credit agencies, which are a capital goods export promotional tool, once there is a negotiation, the ECA will look at it and will say, yeah, this is eligible for a cover. So we will be happy to provide a cover to the bank, which is in our example Standard Chartered, to the bank that will give you a long-term loan to finance it. So this is how this structure, this chart or this graph is to be read. So number two, you have a cover available for this export that will happen, which is export of capital goods from Germany to Bangladesh. The cover is there, hence giving Standard Chartered the opportunity to conclude an ECA-backed loan with you, and in this case, your company would then be the borrower, right? And this is a specific 85% of the commercial contract. That is an OECD consensus rule that says, yes, we want to promote and we want to finance commercial contracts, but we can do so up to 85% of the commercial contract. We expect the buyer to come up with a down payment by its own means, or we as a bank can offer you a commercial loan, which will have a slightly shorter tenor for the 15% remaining down payment financing. In the interest of time, I will leave the cash flows out, because what we want to do today is to match it all with the topic of post-COVID economic relations between Bangladesh and Germany, and to make the structure, the theoretical structure, very tangible. I had asked Mr. Panek from a market-leading equipment provider to co-present with me so that we can speak about a true the project that is actually happening, and what the drivers behind are there. Mr. Panek, if I may leave the floor to you.
These slides are very interesting. I think we are running a little late. Can I request we can have some other ways to come back to these slides again, and if you have another speaker, because we understand the beautiful slides, and these slides are very informative, and it's taken a lot of pain for you to prepare this slide. We thank you for that. Is there another speaker, Miroslav Panek? Is he available? Will he speak also?
Yep. And for the benefit of time, I will speak very shortly. I think Christina made a very good job so far. Thank you very much for the introduction. Maybe very shortly about myself. My name is Miroslav Panek, and I'm heading the structured finance department at Oerlikon Man-Made Fibers segment. Oerlikon Man-Made Fiber is the world's largest producer of the machinery which is needed for the man-made fibers production, which are used then for different sectors like infrastructure, medical equipment, like this very well-known surgery masks currently worn by everybody worldwide, but also for packaging, transportation, and what's most important, also for the textiles, meaning apparel. Can I have the next slide? Yep. So as you see, we are active. We are neither active in the chemical sector nor active we are neither chemical company nor the textile company, but we are very close to both sectors. So the machinery which is produced by us are using the petrochemical products like MAG and PTA, and with those machines you get the many kinds of yarns, from industrial yarn to the proper fashion yarn. Yeah, we can go further. And on this slide, you see a typical melt-to-yarn factory, which is currently with great support of Standard Chartered, built for one of our best clients in Bangladesh. As you see, this whole factory starts with polycondensation and ends with the texturizing of the partially oriented yarn. So you have everything from one hand. You don't need to be worried about anything. Elecon is then responsible for delivery, construction, and also for providing of the proper financing.
Okay,
yeah, next slide.
thank you. Okay.
Yeah. Then you can see the view of the factory, which is currently under construction in Bangladesh. We have already inquiries from other clients also in Bangladesh who would like to have the same kind of production, which will be then contributing to the proper turnaround of the Bangladesh's economy in post-COVID times. As Christine already said, man-made fibers are very good contribution to the natural fibers. And as you also know, the natural fiber supply is quite limited. So in order for Bangladesh's economy to grow up further, you actually, the best addition to the natural fiber is man-made fibers as a separate line of production, or as an addition to the natural fibers in form of the mixed yarn. So yeah, I hope I was quick, and so thank you very much.
You have given a very strong message, and I would like to thank all the speakers, Ms. Christine Jordan, Ananti Saha, and Panik, for your very valuable contribution. We have before I give the floor to Mr. Jean Mortes, he is a very renowned, he is a managing director of Julius Hebden, and a person who is very well known in Germany. Before we hear him, our president would like to share a few words with all of you. So I give the floor to President Barrister Umar Sadat. You have the floor, sir. Are you there? Because
Yes, I am. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. One of the beauties of the COVID, which we have learned, is this Zoom, where we can be together from our individual places. But this also has some technical glitches for which, being the host, I got cut out. But thank you so much for attending. Good evening, Honorable Minister, Honorable Ambassadors, respected participants, BGCCI members, and respected members of the press. BGCCI is the largest trade body in Bangladesh, a bilateral trade chamber, and it is one of the oldest. We take pride in what we do because Bangladesh and Germany, we are the largest trade partners so far as the Bangladesh is concerned, doing nearly $7 billion of trade every year. Now, Bangladesh and Germany have a historical relationship. Bangladesh got liberated in 1971, and from Germany was one of the first countries to recognize us, and we remain grateful as ever. Today, our topic is whether the post-COVID relationship between Germany and Bangladesh, whether it's a prospect and a problem. As we all know, that the COVID-19 pandemic has gravely wounded the world economy with the serious consequences impacting all communities and individuals. Moving rapidly across the borders along with principal arteries of global economy, the spread of the virus has benefited from the underlying interconnectedness and frailties of globalization, catapulting a global health crisis into a global economic shock that has hit the most vulnerable the hardest. Emerging from the natural environment and paralyzing our societies and our economies, the coronavirus disease demonstrates the interdependence implicit in the international trade and how it is derailing global efforts to achieving them. Since the virus has first began to spread and the potential repercussions for development and progress became apparent, we at BGCCI Secretariat have been closely monitoring the effects of the global pandemic on trade and development. This webinar, product of this engagement, it synthesizes the substantive analysis and dialogue that BGCCI has undertaken around these issues. It seeks to discern how COVID-19 is spurring on a number of trends already visible prior to this pandemic, magnifying some obstacles, but at the same time, how it is opening up new opportunities for trade and development. While the pandemic may be far from over, and we in Bangladesh just got our vaccine, I think yesterday, it has become clear that transforming global approaches to trade and development cannot be avoided when charting a sustainable course to recovery from the pandemic. We hope this discussion will highlight the prospect for a better economic relation between Bangladesh and Germany. We will try to identify areas where the pandemic is accelerating trends already building up since the global financial crisis in trade, investment, and technological change. It is our belief that this recovery from pandemic can help to reshape the global production network and reset multilateral cooperation for the better accelerating the achievement in bilateral trade between Germany and Bangladesh. We believe this recovery can sow seeds of healthier, fairer, and greener globalization that can be nourished by a more resilient approach to trade and growth between these two countries. I thank all of you who have participated here, and I think so far it's going now. We have learned a lot, but we expect that very serious participants and guests are coming, the industry leaders, and we hope to get enlightened from them. Thank you very much. Ambassador Shahid Akhtar, you need to unmute.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, President. Well, now I would request our next speaker on my list is Mr. Jean Mortes, Managing Director of Julius Hoppeden GmbH from Germany, a very renowned speaker. You have the floor, sir.
Yes, Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to be here with you today. My topic today is the impact of COVID-19 for international business with Bangladesh. First of all, please let me introduce myself. My name is Mr. Jan Moritz. I'm the Managing Director of company Julius Hoppeden in Hamburg, Germany. Our company is established 1877, and we are 144 years in the ready-made garment sector. And we are running our own office and our stuff in Dhaka. So this means with this background, you will easily see that my point of view is more or less the ready-made garment sector. And because this is also the backbone of the industry in Bangladesh, so I think this is the invitation for me to give you the speech today. So coronavirus disruptions in ready-made garment sector in Bangladesh. What is the effect at the moment for the ready-made garment sector worldwide? The pandemic of corona have strong effects due to the lockdown. We had in spring 2020 the first lockdown in Europe, North America, and other regions of the world. Now we are facing in Europe the second heavy lockdown, in North America as well. But the effect is for the ready-made garment industry that the consumers are not in the mood for shopping. So this means the turnover worldwide for ready-made garment is heavily going down. But the question is, and this is the idea for me to be here today, what is the impact for the ready-made garment sector in Bangladesh? So we have to face a situation that 85% of the gross national product of Bangladesh is coming from a ready-made garment sector. This means this is the backbone of the country. And in spring, we had to face the situation that a lot of international buyers had to cancel orders. And as a consequence, the ready-made garment factories have to dismiss a lot of workers. The figures I have in hand is from 4 million workers in this area. In this sector, 1 million was dismissed. And so far as I know, a big number of these dismissed workers are not coming back to the factories till today. This situation is very pity, and this brings less income because not the money is coming from the market. This affects also the social welfare which are coming from the factories, and medical support and so on. This is given by the factories to the workers and to the society. But on the other hand, what is the impact for the ready-made garment factories in Bangladesh? We all know that the quantity and the volume of the orders are going down. Or it was going down since spring, and we didn't reach the level before the crisis. This also have an impact on the financial situation of the factories, because the costing situation for a ready-made garment factory is more or less the same. You have the land, you have the buildings, you have the machineries, but if you have less orders, this means your turnover is going down, and the costs are more or less stable. You can only slightly reduce the costs. On the other hand, due to the less order situation we are facing in the market, that some buyers are forcing the factories to accept lower prices within the last year, and the factory owners have to follow this and maybe from time to time accept this in order to fill up the capacities of the factories. This has also, of course, the effect that the financial scope is slightly going down, but this is individual from factory to factory. And we heard that a lot of some financial support is coming from the government, but you cannot compensate everything. So this is the situation. Plus, the corona pandemic has very, very strong impact for the factories themselves, because due to the pandemic situation, you can only have around 3/3 of your workers in the factory in the production process. This means the capacity and the efficiency is going down. Even we had some factories, if you have a breakout in the factory for corona, then you have to close the factory. Plus you have a lot of extra costs. You have checked the fiber, and you need all the technical devices for running the factory. This is a very strong impact for all factories. Plus, we have to face a situation that the worldwide disruptions in the logistic departments have a very strong impact on the logistics situation, and this everything comes together. Contradict to that, the requirements of the world market is coming more and more, particularly from Germany, for example, the green button, grüner Knopf, Ökotex, etc., etc. And these requirements coming every year more and more. But all these together has also a strong impact for the workers, because if you have less orders, you need less workers, and you have to dismiss some workers, as I said before. And if a worker is losing the job, you have no income. So the welfare situation is a little bit different than compared to first world countries. A lot of factories giving medical support to the workers, and if you dismiss your workers, you cannot give them the same medical support as before. You have the workers receiving food in the factories, etc., etc. And on the other hand, a lot of workers, due to the level of education, it is very hard to bring them into new jobs, into maybe higher sophisticated jobs. This is the overall situation we're facing. And at the moment, we are facing that the situation is still very critical. Of course, this is only what I see in the market. It was I see with my partners on the ground, and we don't know how long it takes. We have to face this situation. But in order to limit of the time we have here in this, I would like to give you a conclusion, because end of 2019, we discussed all in the ready-made garment sector that the end of an era is coming, because Bangladesh was going to take over China as the biggest ready-made garment producer worldwide. Today, a lot of factories have problems. The ready-made garment sector is in a very unstable situation at the moment. We all worldwide, you know, we are partners. We are supporting our factories. We would like to give a helping hand to all of them. But the situation is very unclear to all the market players. So we see at the moment that a lot of factories are fighting. They have to fight for orders. They have to fight for their workers. They have to survive. And my final conclusion is only for the ready-made garment, which is a very big sector in Bangladesh. At the moment, this crisis is still going on. It's slightly better and better month by month, but it is not over. So this is what I'm seeing on the ground. And I know that this was a little bit the negative part of this meeting, but I hope you understand my point of view, and I thank you for your time. Thank you very much. Dhanyavad.
Thank you, Mr. Ian Mortis. I think you made a very pertinent and very useful point. And I think we would expect Dr. Rumana Haq, she's the president of BGMEA, a very well-known figure in Bangladesh. She will answer this at a later stage. And I can say that I think we should be aware of what's going on, and we heard from you, and we'll take note of everything that you have said. Now we have the next as our lead speaker is the chief guest of the evening, Honorable Minister for Commerce of Bangladesh. He is no other than, as you know, Honorable Tipu Munshi, Member of Parliament. He has been a very active businessman, active politician, and a philanthropist, and a social worker. There is so much of credentials that it will take a long time. I think he's a very well-known figure in Bangladesh, and people have started knowing him in all the business circle. I would request, Honorable Minister, if you can share your thoughts.
Video on. Video off.
Sir, can you put your video on? Is it on now?
Yeah, yes, I think. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. Excellencies and panelist participants, members of BGCCI, good evening. It's my pleasure to share my thoughts as Minister for Commerce for the government of Bangladesh. It's a daunting challenge for all of us during the COVID period. I'm pleased to join the international webinar and thank BGCCI, the largest bilateral chamber in Bangladesh, for organizing the international webinar for a topic covering prospect or problem. Post-COVID economic relations between Bangladesh and Germany. We know this is the subject. This webinar is timely and will give us opportunity to prepare ourselves to face the challenges before us. I think the discussion who already made, there are some direction ideas we got already. So really, we'll have the opportunity to be prepared for that. I have heard with interest views expressed by the international panelists and other participants. They have made useful and pertinent points for our government's consideration. I'd like to add that Germany being the largest export destination in Europe, and Bangladesh maintains the best of relationship with Germany, ties our independence. Today's international webinar is also dedicated to our father of nation, Mujib Borsho. It will give us impetus to redouble our efforts to increase our trade and commerce between our two countries. I'd like to add that there is plenty of scope to further enhance trade and commerce between the two friendly countries. As Bangladesh will soon be eligible to obtain a developing country status, we know all that 2024 is supposed to be. With this comes added responsibility for Bangladesh. We have to join hands to further increase our trade and commerce. Last year during COVID, Bangladesh experienced setback in achieving its export target, and with the vaccine being made available already in the country now, we'll be able to overcome the setback and work towards increasing our trade and commerce. I'd be happy to see more interactive relationship between Bangladesh and Germany. Here, we also like more proactive role in BGCCI. Well, I know that one of the panelists is Dr. Rubana Haq also, she's there. She knows about this business between Bangladesh and Germany, what is happening. So also she can explain her view also when she comes here. Our Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina made a successful visit to Germany last year. And we also had a high-level trade delegation visit to Bangladesh. These exchanges have assisted to opening new vistas of cooperation between Bangladesh and Germany. We hope there will be more exchange of bilateral visit in coming years. After COVID situation improves, I would like my ministry, along with BGCCI, business delegation to pay a visit to Germany later this year to explore new areas of cooperation. Moreover, BGCCI trade show later this year in Dhaka. We'd like to see participation of German companies in that fair, I think, trade show. Let me end by thanking all the international experts for their useful contributions and all the Bangladeshi panel participants for sharing their views. And I hope there's some more discussion. Participants are going to speak there that will help and enrich this meeting, this discussion. Thanks to BGCCI for organizing today's international webinar. I wish the international webinar success. Joy Bangla, Joy Bangladesh, live forever. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for making a very useful and very timely, statement and giving a lot of support to BGCCI. Under your able guidance, I think BGCCI, the board will definitely work on your direction, and we are looking forward as soon as the COVID situation normalizes. We plan to undertake a visit to Germany. The business people have been inquiring from time to time, and also later part of the year, if things permit, we will also have German trade show in Dhaka, Bangladesh. We are making necessary preparation. Thank you, sir, once again. We hope we have learned a lot from you, from the direction and the points that you have made in your statement. Thank you, sir. Now, before I'll now move to our guest of honor, no other than His Excellency Mohammad Musharraf Hussain Bhuiyan, who is now our ambassador of Bangladesh in Germany. He's in Berlin and very active participant from time to time. Only the other day, he organized a very important potentials for the agriculture exports to Germany, and we learned a lot from him. Now I would request His Excellency Mr. Musharraf Hussain to share his thoughts how we should proceed for post-COVID trade and relations, especially keeping in mind what the Honorable Minister also mentioned. Thank you, sir. You have the floor.
Good afternoon, dear participants from Germany, and good evening to the participants from Bangladesh. I'm delighted to attend the international webinar hosted by BGCCI, and I would like to give thanks to the Honorable Minister for his valuable remarks and to all the participants for giving their time in this webinar. Bangladesh and Germany are maintaining very excellent bilateral trade relationship. Germany is the second largest export destination of Bangladeshi products after the USA and the largest trading partner of Bangladesh in Europe. Despite the worst effects of the corona pandemic, Bangladesh's export to Germany amounted to US dollar 2,932 million in the current financial year up to December. Since my joining in this mission in September 2020, the embassy has been engaged in a vast variety of programs, and due to corona pandemic, we often found new ways to do so. Let me briefly mention some of the highlights. On 19th October 2020, we attended the digital conference on Asia Pacific Conference of German Business, APK, where Dr. Angela Merkel also spoke. The program was also forwarded to BGCCI to attend. On the 4th November 2020, Honorable Commerce Minister Mr. Tipu Munshi MP spoke as a special guest in the 5th German Asia Business Dialogue, where Federal Minister for Economic Affairs, Mr. Altmaier, and several other ministers from Asia Pacific countries participated. By this time, I met Mr. Mark Hauptmann MP, who is a close associate of Minister Altmaier. I met the State Secretary Foreign Affairs and many Director Generals and advisors of Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ministry of Finance, and the Ministry of Economy and Development. And in everywhere, I raised the issue of trade and business with Germany. Most recently, as Ambassador Shahid Akhtar mentioned, on 14th January, with the hosting or co-hosting of Bangladesh Embassy in Berlin and the German Agri-Business Alliance, we held a virtual conference entitled Bangladesh Opportunities for Export and Trade of Agri Products, Quality and Certification, where Honorable Agriculture Minister was this guest of honor, and he spoke on the occasion. A few days back, I and my commercial counselor, Saiful Islam, met with Dr. Volker Trier, Head of Foreign Trade, DIHK, where I proposed to set up an international office of DIHK in Dhaka, and he agreed, which can also look after German-Bangladesh business, and there will be close cooperation with BGCCI. Recently, one German company, UBF Limited, got land allotment from BEPSA for setting up a garments manufacturing factory in Adamji EPZ. Due to current corona pandemic, the investor was unable to travel to Bangladesh. Therefore, the embassy has facilitated the first time ever hybrid signing ceremony so that this great investment project could go ahead without hindrances. Presently, I am very concerned as how long the lockdown due to pandemic will continue in Germany. Restaurants, bars, theaters, and all shopping malls except supermarkets for essentials are closed. We see corona situation in Bangladesh is tolerable, whereas there are a few numbers of casualties, but here in Germany, the casualties are very high and we are in a restricted daily lives. The German government has already rolled out vaccination program, and I hope that the situation will improve significantly if the COVID jab program runs smoothly, and then we will be able to do more businesses. There are immense opportunities for growing business between our two countries. I am confident that if the interested businessmen and companies explore opportunities on the basis of comparative advantage, trade will definitely grow, particularly in leather, agro products, both fresh vegetable as well as processed food, aquaculture, plastic, toys, etc. from Bangladesh, and heavy industrial equipments, machineries, and vehicles from Germany. We urge the business people both in Bangladesh and Germany for more engagement with us for our bilateral economic cooperation. I myself and my commercial counselor are very willing to cooperate with all of you. With these few words, I would like to conclude my speech. I again thank BGCCI to host the webinar, and after the age of pandemic, we expect to welcome BGCCI with a business delegation in Germany. As I have already mentioned, that the DIHK has agreed to invite BGCCI after the pandemic. Thank you, Honorable Minister, and thank to all participants.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Excellency. I think you made a very valuable point for Bangladeshi businessmen, recognizing the work being done by BGCCI. This is very useful to learn that in 4 months' time, 4 months tenure that you have had in Germany during a difficult period of lockdown, and especially the wintry months over there, you have been very successful in convincing the DIHK authorities to recognize and to participate in Bangladesh. And we are extremely grateful to you. And you are also planning, as soon as situation settles, that you will arrange, you will be helping us in making another program to take the businessmen to Germany. We look forward to that, and also to compliment you and wishing you all the best in coming months. But we will maintain close contact with you. We know without your support, the economy and trade of this country will not see the light of the day. And I think you are playing a very vital role for which we thank you once again. I think the Honorable Minister is also doing his best that he can do to improve our trade and commerce between our two countries. Having said that, I think we are running a little late. I think we'll be able to make it up gradually. We have the next speaker is no other than Dr. Romana Haq. I don't know whether she needs any, but she's a very learned president of BGMEA, and BGMEA, as you all know, it stands for Bangladesh Garment Manufacturing Body, and she has played a very vital role during this difficult time. If it was an easy time, I don't know where she would have taken Bangladesh to the moon. You have the floor, ma'am. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. Excellencies, Honorable Minister, Ambassador, and our esteemed colleagues who are taking part today. I would like to be a little more hopeful because Germany is the only country in EU where Bangladesh's export post-June rose. So our export to Germany in 2018-19 was 5.84 billion. But the earlier years, we were at a 6.13 billion. But of course, it dipped to, again, post-COVID scenario at a 4.79 billion, which is sad. But if we carefully take a look at our export, in between January and June, we dipped. But then again, later half of the year, our exports to Germany rose little, but it still did. And you know what? I think the majority of our export was on man-made fiber-based products. So that is what Mr. Panik was talking about, on man-made fiber-based backward linkage. that is where we welcome Germany's investment, because out of the 30 products that grew in woven items, it was men's and boys' man-made fiber-based trouser, anoraks, jackets, everything. So it was mostly man-made fiber-based. And we must keep in mind that though Bangladesh continues its journey from, intensively in cotton, the world has opened up for man-made fiber. So it's important for us to keep up with the world and increase investment there. So FDI in polyester staple fiber certainly can be one of the ways ahead. FDI in light engineering is certainly one of the ways ahead, because Bangladesh actually imports around $1.6 billion worth of just light engineering material. And this is something that Germany can easily invest in. It is certainly heartwarming to see, though no pun intended, that German import from Cambodia, Vietnam, Sri Lanka, and China has dipped, whereas South Asia has remained in the radar, and import from Bangladesh, India, and Pakistan also has gone up. So I think that is a sign of Germany looking towards us. And while we say that we will not be doing well, let us also focus on all the forecasts, and post-June, Bangladesh will certainly take off. Inshallah, as we would say, because considering Ethiopia's condition, the political condition, and considering Cambodia having lost its GSP, considering that Vietnam will not be able to grow overnight capacity and match us, and considering Myanmar's situation as well, the only destination is actually Bangladesh. So Bangladesh is definitely set to grow post-June, and we hope that we will be able to thrive in the sector. So while we say this, I would like to also draw your attention to what Mr. Moritz said about 1 million people losing their jobs. Well, it is not quite so. Only 76,000 people lost jobs, 40,000 of them again joined back. So we are at a position where the industry is poised to take off again. What we need from Germany, and because the financial institutions are there, is to humbly remind everyone that Bangladesh is always, it always has a receivable of $8 billion. So our contracts are not guaranteed. When we wake up, we do see mails which from customers which do say that they're evoking force majeure clauses. So our contracts are not secure. At this point of time, it is incredibly important for us to be protected. I mean, there have been multiple Western bankruptcies, but we don't have any shadow protection down here. So we need somebody to underwrite our risks. There, the financial institutions can be of use and can come forward, of course. So the financial institutions must have considerable appetite for what's happening in Bangladesh. I will not lengthen my speech anymore, because not everything can be solved throughout over one webinar, but I do urge Bangladesh German Chamber of Commerce and Industries to take forward a separate discussion on mutual trade and investment. But before I end, I must also, and I'm sure my honorable minister will also join me in thanking the German government, especially BMZ, for the $21 million that they have pledged for the rehabilitation of the retrenched workers. And I must acknowledge the extraordinary, outstanding support of Minister Mueller, who responded to a single mail of ours and responded back by saying that, you know what, green button initiative, absolutely, that's going to fly. But his support for Bangladesh was unparalleled. So we remain ever grateful for that. And I certainly hope that Bangladesh RMG sector will see a new light of the day if BGCCI keeps on doing its job, which it's very, very well doing. And of course, with Musharraf Bhai out there in Germany, I'm sure we will see new horizon in bilateral trade. very soon. Thank you very much for your attention, for allowing me to speak. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Rubana Haq. I think you have answered all the questions that were made earlier by the German experts. I think that's a very good points you have made over there. And then you also mentioned the contribution the Germany is making towards R&D sector. And we have taken note of the points that you made, that we should hold a separate on mutual trade between Bangladesh and Germany, which we plan to do very soon. And we have a number of such events coming up. Would like to thank you for all the points that you have made, but I think very, very concisely you have put, as I said, you are a very learned speaker. So thank you so much. Now we move to another professor, Professor Mustafizur Rahman. Mustafizur Rahman, I think he, again, doesn't need any introduction. He is a distinguished fellow of the Center of Policy Dialogue, which everybody, abbreviation is known to everyone in Bangladesh, CPD. This is the lead think tank, I would say, not only in Asia, but all over the world. CPD is known to everybody. And he's a gold medalist, highly learned person. And
thank you, Chair.
And many other things.
Time is short.
But I'll end over here. We'd like to hear from Professor Mustafizur Rahman.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, Honorable Minister, Excellency, the Ambassador, distinguished participants. I appreciate this opportunity to share some of my thoughts on a very important theme, which is the bilateral relationship between Bangladesh and Germany. And as Dr. Rubana Haq was mentioning, it's one of our most important bilateral relationships. I'd like to make three quick points. One is that, yes, Germany is our second largest export destination. And we are happy to see that the projections that have been made is that after a negative growth of 5.4% in 2020, Germany is set to have a positive growth of 3.5% in 2021 and 3.2% in 2022, which would mean that Bangladesh's demand for Bangladesh's products in Germany will see a robust rebound in this year and the next year. So this is a good news for the German people and also for us. But for me, the second point is very important, which is German investment in Bangladesh. Now, from that perspective, I see that, and the ambassador has very rightly mentioned the prospect of a German investment in Bebza, in Adamji. But I see that as of June 2020, the total FDI stock out of $18.7 billion, Germany's contribution is only $193 million, which is very small. Whereas from USA, it is $3.7 billion, from UK, it is $2.5 billion. So there, I think there is a big opportunity for the special economic zone where German investment can come to take advantage of the preferential market access that we have in Germany. I think that this is where the next focus could be. And we are also offering out of this special economic zone, country-specific special economic zone. So if that can be one possibility, I think that is something that the Honorable Ambassador also could think about. A country-specific special economic zone for German investors. The third point is that Germany has played a very important role in terms of the additional 3 years of preferential market access, which will be given to the LDCs after graduation, which the European Union has offered. So I think that from that perspective, after graduation, now on the table, there is a proposal, for example, for continuation of international support measures once a country graduates. And it's very important, as Anubhuti was mentioning, that LDC graduation, middle income graduation will have important implications for Bangladesh in going forward over the next decade. So if Germany takes a positive stance with regard to the current revision of the EU Everything But Arms and EU GSP schemes, I think that is one possibility of taking and advancing our relationship forward. The last point that I would like to make is that it was very rightly mentioned by Mr. Mark that competitiveness is the name of the game, and their trade financing is a major part of competitiveness. And we think that there Germany's contribution in terms of trade financing and helping Bangladesh in ensuring its competitiveness in the global market will also be very important. So I'm very hopeful that this very important bilateral relationship will help Bangladesh in terms of our graduation from the LDC and the middle income graduation that we have already started in 2015. All these will have very crucial impact on our competitiveness, on the financing that we will be getting, and we want Germany to be an important part of that journey in near future. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity, Chair.
Thank you, Professor Mustafizur Rahman. I think you made a very useful point for all the people who are participating to take note of. Especially you have referred to, drawn the attention of His Excellency the Ambassador, Mr. Musharraf, who is awaiting to hear all these new points, and he has kept his commercial counselor, who is also a very active person. I can see him behind this, sitting just next to His Excellency. They're taking notes, and they will definitely follow it up. And especially you talked about a special zone. This is something, I think, good idea. I think since our ambassador has already taken some initiative, I think he'll be able to work upon it. Thank you once again. Thank you all the participants. Please bear with us. We are running a little late. We'll try to make it up very soon. We have the next speaker, no other than Mr. Zafar Subhan. I think he is the editor of Dhaka Tribune, and this Dhaka Tribune is one of the very popular English newspaper in Bangladesh, and his articles are very sought after. His newspaper is very sought after. I think he plays a very vital role with a very strong academic background. You have the floor, sir. Mr. Zafar Subhan.
Thank you very much for that lavish introduction, and thank you to the Bangladesh German Chamber of Commerce for organizing this very important discussion. Excellencies, Honorable Minister, esteemed guests, thank you all. I think I was, this conversation has been styled the post-COVID-19 outlook, prospect or problem. And actually listening to all of the esteemed participants speak, I think what's very clear is that for us here in Bangladesh, it's clearly both. And what has happened is that COVID has, of course, hit Bangladesh as it has hit the entire world. And that is going to be a massive challenge which we have to face. I think one of the things which came through very clearly in Ms. Sahai's presentation was how Bangladesh has, in fact, and I think we can give credit here both to the Bangladeshi government and indeed to the Bangladeshi business sector, among other sectors here, was perhaps able to weather the storm of COVID perhaps better than many other countries. That said, given the fact that our principal export markets are in the United States and in Europe, that has been a big challenge, and I think that's been spoken to very effectively by people like Professor Mustafizur Rahman. I have to say that I was very pleased to hear Dr. Rubana Huq's presentation, because I think it's the most hopeful of the ones we have heard. And I would also like to give Dr. Huq credit, and indeed the entire RMG sector credit, for how they have actually dealt with the COVID crisis here in Bangladesh. Because when COVID hit Bangladesh early last year, one of the things which we were very concerned about was the impact it would have on the garment industry, which is, of course, the engine of growth here in Bangladesh. And the fear was that with so many people working in such close environments, that the garment industry itself would be a hotbed for the spread of the virus. As it happened, because the virus was managed so well by the RMG industry, we didn't really see anything like that happen. And in fact, there was a lot of discussion internally in Bangladesh, which the Bangladeshi participants will remember, in terms of when it was suitable to open up the factories again, because of course they had been closed initially as part of a nationwide lockdown, which Bangladesh had gone into, as had many other countries around the world. And in fact, I think it was great leadership on the part of the BGMEA, because they took a lot of criticism among civil society and indeed among the media for their decision to open up the garment industry when they did, to reopen it. But it proved to be the correct decision, because I think that had a tremendous impact in turning things around for Bangladesh economically. And also, they did it in such a way that the negative fallout was minimized. I have not heard, and it's my job as a person in the media to look into these things. We haven't really heard of any significant outbreaks of, COVID in the garment industry, or indeed in any industries in Bangladesh, which, when you think about it, is an incredible achievement for us. So I think we can be very proud here in Bangladesh of how we've handled the COVID crisis. Certainly we're not out of the woods, though I think we're one of the countries, as has been expressed, where growth is coming back and is turning around quicker than the global average. And as I said, the biggest challenge is our export markets, Germany being one of them. But I'm confident, I think, that that if the experience of the last 12 months have shown us anything, it's that Bangladesh is, in fact, going to be able to weather this particular storm. We don't know what the coming year has in store for us globally, but with the vaccine now having just reached our shores and it's starting to be distributed throughout the world, the hope is that we have gone beyond the problem aspect of this crisis, or at least the worst part of the problem, and are now entering the light of a new day. Other issues which have been mentioned have been the election in the US of a more trade-oriented administration and the impact that will have on the global trading regimen. So I think all of these things suggest to me that we can be very hopeful about 2021. Certainly, it may take a while before we get back as a planet to where we were prior to the pandemic. We're hoping by the end of 2021, I think December 2021, we'll be at December 2019 figures according to the presentation. And I think, that is going to have to be good enough for us. And I think if you had told us last year that we'd be pulled out within another 12 months, people would have taken that deal. So I think that's where we are. I feel that Germany and Bangladesh can work very closely in harmony together. Germany is a major export market for Bangladesh. People have also mentioned FDI from Germany could be very helpful for Bangladesh. As a member of the media, one of the things perhaps the other panelists here are not that aware of, Deutsche Welle is, of course, very active in Bangladesh, and also they have a Bangla language channel, which is something we in the media in Bangladesh have always appreciated. So I think that really shows the commitment of Germany to Germany-Bangladesh ties. And I think those of you who are in industry perhaps see this as well, or you maybe see this even more strongly, but it's something we in the media are also aware of. I know we're very short of time, so I'm going to leave it there as far as my comments go. I'm very keen to hear the comments of the rest of the panelists. And again, thank you so much for arranging this very valuable discussion and also giving me the opportunity to speak. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Zafar Suman. I think you have touched on all the important points, including we would like you as being one of the media leader to play a very important role in cementing and bringing the Bangladesh and Germany closer to each other. And in this way, our trade, commerce, and other investments and industries can further flourish. With these, I would now move to young Sayyid Naseem Manzoor. I think we all know he comes from a very distinguished background. His father, Manzoor Elahi, is also a very well-known figure. He represents being one of the business leader in Bangladesh. He is the managing director of the Apex Group in Bangladesh. And he has had in this particular COVID season, we are with him. He lost his mother, dear mother. Recently, his father-in-law has also left this world. We convey our deepest condolences to you, but we would like to hear from you. Manzoor, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Shahid Akhtar, Honorable Minister, Mr. T.P. Munshi MP, Excellencies, fellow distinguished panelists, members of BGCCI, and the President of BGCCI. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. The topic of today's discussion, post-COVID economic relations between Bangladesh and Germany, prospects and problems and prospects, or prospects and question mark. I think I echo Zafar's feelings. I think it's both. I represent the other 15% of Bangladesh's exports. Ruban Apa represents 85%. We are the other part, but we like to think that what we lack in quantity, we make up in quality. I work in the leather and leather footwear space. We manufacture and export leather and leather footwear and non-leather footwear from Bangladesh to 57 countries around the world, to mainly brands and retailers. Germany, for us, we're very proud to say, is our single largest destination, has been. Our machinery came from a small town called Pirmasens in 1990, which at one time was the shoe capital of, in fact, all of Europe and Germany. And we have also our biggest client, one of the most respected footwear retailers in Europe and in the world, in Germany. So we are hugely invested in what happens in the German economy. I'm really happy to hear that the presentation from Standard Chartered saying that we hope that Germany will come back to growth at 3.5% in 2021. May I say that Germany is not only important for what German consumers bring to us, but what Germany is the engine of Europe. Our other European friends often don't like to hear that, but that's the reality. And we see that when buying behavior slows down in Germany, it affects buying behavior in other countries, because today Europe buys as a whole. Big chains buy with Germany. So if Germany slows down, other countries slow down. I'm really happy that Anubhathi talked about the fact and the reality that Europe is not expected to grow as robustly as Asia. That's the reality. I think the second reality is I'm really concerned about statistical rebounds. I'm really glad you said that, because we'll see all these percentages coming off some ridiculously low base. So it's not really going to translate to bottom line gains for public limited companies such ourselves who have shareholders to please. The third point I think, which is very important for us, is that Bangladesh will definitely outperform, and we are already outperforming. And that has been pointed out by previous speakers for a combination of reasons. I think quite bold leadership by the government, specifically our Honorable Prime Minister, I think our Honorable Commerce Minister and the administration. I think the resilience of the Bangladeshi worker can never be praised enough. I think management, we can do a lot better, but what our workers go through and what they deliver is just remarkable. And I think the sheer flexibility of the Bangladesh business model, which I'll touch upon a little bit later. Now, if I look at the problems, I'm really grateful to Mr. Jan Moritz for saying exactly what I always say. Consumers are not in the mood for shopping. I think it's a very powerful and very simple statement. When you look at demand for products like ladies' leather handbags or men's wallets, or the next pair of leather boots, a lot of it is consumer sentiment driven. If I'm optimistic, I will shop. If I'm pessimistic, I will not shop. It is not an essential purchase. So non-essential purchases have declined across the world, from the US to Japan to Germany, even in Bangladesh. So consumer sentiment is very important, and we're looking at that very, very carefully. What are the problems? Obviously, declining demand for our exportables, mainly RMG and non-RMG, leather footwear being one of them. We've seen that in our decline. After a modest recovery quarter one of the financial year, July to October, July to September, June to September, we have seen a decline from October, November, December. And the decline has been quite frightening. We were only minus 11% YOY from the quarter June, July, August. But then when we went to September, October, November, December, it was a drop of 47% in our particular case, because we saw demand drop. And I must stress here, the timing could not have been worse. For German retail chains to close shutters from the 16th of December, just before the most critical retail period of the year, is a real difficult setback to come back from. Because not only does it mean they will have unsold inventory for this season, it will affect their buying behavior for the next fall, winter, which we will have to deal with. However, the decline in demand is not just a problem for exports from Bangladesh, but also for our German friends who want to sell to Bangladesh. Appetite to buy capital machinery, German cars, consumer products, German electrical fittings on part of Bangladeshi consumers and corporates will decline and is declining. I'm very happy that Mr. Morris talked about what lower volumes and prices are doing to factories that were already stressed and what it will do to Bangladesh society, particularly the workers. And the pivot to online. I must say here, I read a lot and I hear a lot in these webinars about how digital has now saved us all. I really think we should be a little careful of this hyperbole. I can talk about our particular customer, who is the single largest footwear retailer in Germany and in Europe, and only 10% of their sales come from online. The pivot to digital is not immediate. And even if it is, our factories are not fast enough. Our rules are not ready enough to necessarily transition. It will happen, but there will be a transition period. Now, let's look at the other half of the glass, which is full. Prospects, new categories, product types. We've heard from Mr. Panek about, Orlicom, I believe, man-made fibers, and this is a huge opportunity. We are seeing in our own sector footwear, the rise of non-leather footwear. The whole world has gone athleisure, right? We are hearing about people selling woven, not selling bottoms, but selling tops, of people selling indoor slippers rather than selling hiking boots. So there's a change in demand, and we have to pivot to that. On the topic of pivot for German investors, I've been reading recently about how German medium-sized industries, firms which are the heart of German industry, how they're pivoting to China already to take advantage of the bounce back in China and to get ready for the bounce back of demand in China. And I would really like to use this opportunity to invite these firms to look at the market in Bangladesh, because you are missing a huge opportunity. If you just look at Bangladesh to sell very high quality equipment, which we need, you're missing half the picture. So I think if Germany buys more from us, Germany can sell more to us and the overall trade will rise. And this is a huge opportunity. So pivot to Bangladesh as well as pivot to China. Third, new trade financing solutions, absolutely. We're in situations where we're having to pack and hold product for maybe 1 year. I was recently in a conversation where I was told, please delay shipments from January to Feb 22. I was thinking 22nd of February, it's actually February of 2022. The factory will have to hold product for 1 year. That was not built into our costing. We will need to adjust. And last but not least, a new ordering system. I want to thank Rubana for this. We really need a little bit more equity in this power structure. We cannot continue to be the bottom of this food chain and be at the mercy of completely unscrupulous, some unscrupulous buyers. I must say here that Germany has been exemplary. I would not like to name the countries that have not been, but we have seen shameful behavior by so-called retailers from other countries who have cut and run away from orders. I can tell you from my experience, none of our German customers have done that. We have sat at the table, we have renegotiated. They have done what Germans do. Hard negotiations, but they have been correct. And for that, we have to thank you as a nation. Last but not least, we need a new business model. We really do. We have to stop this mass production, fast fashion, overconsumption, overproduction. We need leaner models, we need greener models, and we need to buy from Bangladesh to sell to Bangladesh. Thank you very much for this opportunity, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, BGCCI.
Thank you, Naseem. Thank you, Naseem Manzoor. I think you covered all the points in a very summarized manner, and you have also gave a lot of message. You have given a lot of message to people who are in the business how they should handle. I'll take 30 seconds just to point out there's a German company in Bangladesh. They export only to a very select high market. And I had a discussion. The lady MD over here mentioned that they have had last year 15% better sale than the previous year. And as we said, our demand is always there. And these are fixed buyers. So we know what they want. It's a very small shipment and we do it and we are doing it very successfully. You see, people even during this COVID time, they've been doing very well. But by and large, the points that you have made are very pertinent. I would like to thank you for that. Now we have a very renowned banker of Bangladesh. He is no other than Mr. Nasser Ijaz Bijoy. He's the CEO of the Standard Chartered Bank of Bangladesh. But BGCCI also bank with the Standard Chartered Bank. It's not because of that we are promoting him. There are many banks in Bangladesh, but he is one of the very sought after person. So you don't need much of introduction. So you have the floor, sir. Nasser Ijaz Bijoy, please go ahead.
Thank you so much. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. In the interest of time, I'll say that all protocols are observed. Basically, I will only touch upon three important points. I think much has been talked about the economic growth. I will probably not repeat all those. 3 points I will talk about, especially related to financing. I will leverage from what Dr. Rubanahok and Mr. Nasim Munzur mentioned about the man-made fabric production. Now, one of the challenges that we face at times that for garments-related equipment, the amount is not very big. It's like $10 million thereabout, right? And it is difficult to get ECA. I'm very pleased to have this session today, wherein ACA and Standard came together because ACA has a product which is for $1 to $10 million. In absence of that, we often need an aggregator to get this thing done. So, which is not a very cost competitive structure. Therefore, I think this is a very important point for all the garments manufacturers or the textile manufacturers in the country, that this is an opportunity that they can avail. Second, again, to what Nasim Munzur and Dr. Rubanahok mentioned, that the performance of the Bangladeshi exporters are not an issue at this point of time. It is about the international brands not being able to keep their commitments. From that perspective, I think we need badly, we need an export credit insurance program. And that's where I would request ACA and institutions like that to maybe partner with local companies and local financial institutions to see how we can actually ensure underwrite the risk after post-export financing, because that's where Bangladeshi exporters are now heavily exposed. So I would request ACA to actually work on that bit. And thirdly, I think if you look at the history of the progress that Bangladesh has made, clearly in the last 12 years, Bangladesh has grown 4 times. And the aspiration for 2041 is to be a $3 trillion economy. It is not going to be easy. It is like 9 times growth in 20 years' time. It is possible. China has done 12 times in 20 years. So I will still have the hopes up there. But it is going to be different ball game altogether. And to do that, there will be a significant investment requirement in infrastructure and large projects. And for that, I think it's important to, again, work with the ECAs, not only in Germany, but also all countries, to ensure that we have the financing capability to raise the fund to fund the large projects. Now, one thing that I've experienced in the last many years, while we have been working with Euler Hermes for a long time, at times, many of the equipments are prepared in different countries in Europe, but in one country, it is not there. If anyone is familiar with ECA, there is a minimum component requirement for ECAs, like 40%, 50%, whatever. So maybe if it was, it would have been very beneficial if there is a ECA under European Bank, then European Central Bank, then actually it can cover all the machinery equipments aggregated within the European Union. That will be very useful. So I think 3 points only from the financing part, being a banker here. I think these 3 points are very relevant. One is small ticket exports, small ticket imports for ECA cover. Second is the export credit guarantee scheme, and third is the large project aggregation beyond Germany. So I'll stop at that because I know there are a lot of other important distinguished panel members are there to speak. Thank you so much.
Sorry, Judge Bijoy, I think you made a very precise 3 points, and I think well taken 3 points, and I think this has been very, very useful. Useful to all the people who are in business to understand and how to take benefit of this. Having said that, we have the speaker who is expert in IT. Since we have been talking about most of the presenter did mention, he is no other than Mr. Javed Ahmed. He is the CEO of AproSoft, now based in Boston, but he operates in different parts of the world also. So if you are still there, Mr. Javed Ahmed in Boston, I losing track of the time is, it's nearly 9 over there. You must be in the morning. Yes, you are there. You have the floor, sir.
Well, thank you very much. I hope everyone can hear me. I'm delighted and honored to be amongst our distinguished speakers and participants. Honorable Minister Tipu Munshi, His Excellency Ambassador Musharraf Hussain. I thank the BGCCI and in particular Ambassador Akhtar and his entire team for arranging this. It has been, I think, a very interesting discussion and obviously pertinent to the times that unfortunately we live through. I'm coming to you from Boston, and for all of our panelists and speakers and attendees who are in Bangladesh, Assalamu alaikum and Shuha Shonda, and to our German speakers and attendees, Guten Tag, and it's morning for me here. It snowed last night, so I'm warm and comfortable here, but I have the distinct pleasure of speaking to you from the northeast of the US. And as we know, this pandemic has clearly affected the US in terms of cases and mortality. In fact, beyond its share, and it talks about quite a bit about the supposed advantages that one would assume we have being in the US in the healthcare system, but it has shown the frailties and the inefficiencies being exposed through this massive pandemic that we're seeing globally. And of course, our hearts go out to all those who have been affected and through this time, through this pandemic. I would like to first introduce myself a little bit. I'm Javed Ahmed. I'm the Managing Director of AproSoft Consulting and Training Corp. It's a company that was founded quite a few years ago. We've been operational since 2006, headquartered in US in Boston, but our entire IT team of highly skilled software developers are located in Dhaka, Bangladesh. Our market has been primarily the US and Europe. We do software development, systems integration, and we focus on software development outsourcing. In the last couple of years, we have been focused on the Bangladesh market. We've started slowly working with some local providers and customers. We do a lot of work in areas of Microsoft, Salesforce, Oracle, Amazon, etc. And we have been recently awarded the partnership with Siemens, and hence my I guess participation here through that lens of being a representative company of Siemens digital systems transformation products. They provide solutions for industry that is in the area of digital transformation, Internet of Things, AI, machine learning, and really automating and making factory solutions and making them smart factory solutions. The areas where these are used are obviously in the electronics, mechanical, chemical, pharmaceutical industry, the light and heavy automobile industry, of course, textile, RMG, and leather industries as well. So that's a basic background. I come with over 30 years of experience in the industry and in the IT industry. And I've seen several transformations. Initially, when I started up my career in the US, we started having the wave of moving away from mainframe to microcomputers. Then somewhere along the line, we got into the digital transformation related to the internet that had both a disruptive effect, but also an extremely highly enablement effect as well. And that created a lot of opportunities in the IT industry and basically transformed a lot of the industries, in fact, all of our lives that we know it as of now. And most recently, now with the digital transformation that's occurring now, we have the Industrial Revolution 4.0 that we many of us have touted and perhaps heard of. And the companies such as Siemens allows companies that are manufacturing and operating any type of manufacturing industry will be able to use these types of digital transformation. But why are we talking about that? So Bangladesh, I've been fortunate enough to be traveling to Bangladesh every year 4 to 5 times to visit my team and be with them. But obviously for the last 12 months, I only was able to make it during November of last year, finally, after a 12-month gap. And what I saw was an incredible story of resilience and hard work and innovation. Not only is Bangladesh thriving in its e-commerce and its local retail area, there's been a lot of innovation there using digital transformation, but we have also done a lot better compared to Europe and North America in terms of the impact of the pandemic. And while there has been significant effects, we've come out, as many of our distinguished speakers have said, we've come out of it much better than forecasted perhaps or anticipated. Now, one of the things that I would like to mention is that during this time, perhaps of lower volumes of production, where we're trying to regain our foothold in the marketing side and the sales side, comes an opportunity where we should be able to gain more customers over time, as we saw in one of the previous speakers mentioned that production out of China is coming to other countries, including Bangladesh. So hopefully we will be better suited once Europe and US comes back online. But in order to really capitalize on that, we would need to be ready for that and transform our industries from a digital perspective, implement some of these IoT solutions, implement AI and the machine learning capabilities. Why not to just be able to do that, but really gain some significant advantages, such as increased in production efficiencies, increasing our reliability and timeliness of our product and service delivery. This is extremely important, as anybody knows in business. And overall, the impact would be to hopefully lower the cost. Yes, initially there is an investment needed, and some of the products and in fact capabilities that we have through the financial systems in Bangladesh, where we could perhaps take these investment opportunities and move them into this digital transformation. And to me, that I think this is the time to do it, so that we can not only do it while the production levels are lower, so that we can focus on it and actually do better, so that we can actually be ready when the volumes come back and be able to provide the services the way that perhaps our German counterparts, EU and US counterparts, from a customer perspective, what they're expecting. I think, you know, I agree with Mr. Nassim Manzoor that pivoting to digitalization has not been fast enough. There has been huge success in e-commerce in certain cases, but not in all. And we as a nation that is exporting to the rest of the world needs to be in a position where we have the advantages of not only our labor arbitrage, but also take advantage of digitalization so that we can be at the forefront and leading the exports compared to our competitors. I'm going to keep it very short and end it here, and perhaps leave you with a small example of digitalization and where it has in fact helped us. Aprosoft has been very fortunate to be part of providing services, digital services, to a company called, or a nonprofit called Haifa. They are a US-based nonprofit, medical nonprofit, and they're operating out of the camps in Rohingya, camps in Bangladesh, in Cox's Bazar. They asked us to help them with coming up with a low-cost, very easy to use electronic medical record system that they could use for their customers and their patients. We delivered that, and since October 2017, they've been using that in the Cox's Bazar camps. A small team of 10 doctors and healthcare workers have seen over 250,000 individual patients over the past 3 years. And this was because of the advantages that they gained, this small team gained by using this very powerful, extremely to the point and cloud-enabled solution that we were proud to be able to provide. So something like that, we may say, well, in Cox's Bazar, there's no reason to use electronic systems. Well, there is, because if used correctly, we can actually transform the level of care, the level of service that we provide. And this obviously goes to all of our manufacturing and outsourcing and exporting industries in Bangladesh as well. So as a result of all of the efforts, hopefully we'll be in better shape once the rest of the world is able to come back to us and take our services and production capabilities again. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. I think we all have heard with interest. You have made very good points. I think I'm sorry that I have surpassed the time given to all the candidates, but that's my fault. I allowed all of you to speak. Now I would request President Umar Sadat to give his final remarks. We are coming to the closing part of it. Please, can we hear the final remarks?
Thank you very much,
President.
Thank you, Ambassador Shahid Akhtar. Thank you very much, first of all, for organizing this. And we have been very successful in bringing out the issues which is affecting us at the moment. Now, last 2 hours has been very intellectually stimulating, and I think a lot of issues have come up. And if we look at it, whether it's a problem or it's a prospect, I think there are some problems, and I think specific suggestions has been made in this regard by Mr. Nasim Manzoor, by Mr. Rubanahov, by Mr. Zaved Ahmed, and all the participants, along with the participants from Germany. And I think we will specifically look into this, and from our secretariat will come out and work with this specific proposal. For example, like export insurance guarantee. I think it has become imperative at this time to work with that. But along with these problems, we have got a lot of prospect, and from BGCCI, we have taken steps that within the next 3 years, our bilateral trade between these two countries should reach $8 billion. And for that purpose, we are working with government of Bangladesh, government of Germany, and their respective embassies. And together, we hope to reach that target within the next 3 years. And we hope that BGCCI, with all of your help, with holding all of your hands, will be able to attain this goal. But I thank all of you for attending, and I remain grateful. Thank you, Shahid Bhai.
Thank you. Thank you, President. I think you have made a beautiful sum of the whole webinar that we have organized. The last part of I've seen some members wanted to speak, but I think we don't want to further take you in a different time zone. So I would like to thank, on behalf of BGCCI, all our distinguished participants, Honorable Minister, Ambassador, and all the distinguished panelists from Germany, from anywhere in the world, and all the keynote speakers. The Honorable Minister is still with us. Thank you very much, Minister. I think you have been very useful. I would like to thank you, and as you have mentioned, that we need to work out more and more such programs in the coming days, and we will definitely keep in mind what the points you have made. I hereby declare our webinar end of the webinar. Thank you for your participation. I declare it closed now. I thank you once again for your, I didn't want to go and name all of you because already I think it's running late. So I would request all of you for your, I would thank all of you and request if you have any points that you have missed out, please do let us know. We'd like to follow it up from there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you all. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Goodbye. Dhanyavad.
Thank you. Dhanyavad.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'd like to thank all our board members who are with us.
Thank you very much. Ambassador Shahid Akhtar, please send the recording to us also so that we can.
Sure, definitely.
Taken notes, sir. We have taken notes, but send us, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. অনেকদিন পরে দেখা হলো আপনার সাথে। Thank you.
ভালো থাকবেন, সুস্থ থাকবেন।
খুব ইম্পর্টেন্ট একটা বিষয় আপনার, ওই যে আমি তো এখানে আরো অনেক এঙ্গেজ করতাম যদি ইয়ে না হইতো, এই কোভিড সিচুয়েশন না হইতো, এফডিআই এর জন্য। না ওইটা তো শুনেছি আর কি। হ্যাঁ, আরো চেষ্টা করতেছে সিমেন্সের সাথে একটা ইয়ে করে নাই, ওই যে পাওয়ার জেনারেশনের নর্থ ওয়েস্ট পাওয়ার ইয়ে কোম্পানি আছে না, ওরা ওই যে আমাদের যে ছোট ছোট এই ইন্ডিভিজুয়াল আইপি গুলি আছে যে ওদের কারসাজিতে এই বড়টা যেতে পারে নাই। আমি দেখি মন্ত্রীর সাথে কথা বলার চেষ্টায় আছি।
Not easy, but all the best.
Thank you. Thank you.
ভালো থাকবেন, all the best. আশা করি সামনাসামনি দেখা হবে।
জি জি, অবশ্যই ইনশাআল্লাহ আসবেন। আচ্ছা,
all the best.
Good night.
Good night.
Anwar Shahid, thank you.
Thank you very much.
শহীদ, আপনাকে ফ্লোর দেওয়ার চেষ্টা করছিলাম, আপনি তো না করে দিলেন। আপনি বলে ফেলেন।
আমি
হ্যাঁ, আপনাকে আমরা চেষ্টা করছিলাম, আপনি কিছু বলেন।
Shahid bhai, very well conducted. It's now over. It's now over. We are having off the record, and my good friend ambassador is doing a great job. We have to send a special congratulations.
Yes, we all recognize.
We have to send a special congratulations to our ambassador in Germany.
Thank you. Thank you for reminding. I think we have already, we would like to do so.
I'm not surprised. That is really working hard.
আচ্ছা, মিস্টার কাউসার ভুইয়া, আনমিউট করেন।
জি, আসসালামু আলাইকুম স্যার।
ওয়ালাইকুম সালাম। আচ্ছা শোনেন, ওই যে ইয়ের ওইটা সময় বাড়িয়েছে, এখন একটু চেষ্টা করেন তো।
জি, আমি ওইটা আপডেট পেয়েছি, আমরা পরে ওয়ান অন ওয়ান আলাপ করবো না স্যার। এবং আমাদের অডিয়েন্স এখন যারা আছেন, আমার ছোট্ট একটা প্রশ্ন আছে, সেটা হলো বাংলাদেশে টেক্সটাইল কেমিক্যাল ফ্যাক্টরি সেট আপের জন্য হয়তো একটা এফডিআই আসতে পারে, তো ওনারা প্রজেক্ট খুঁজতেছে ইনফ্যাক্ট ইপিজেড এর ভেতরে।
আচ্ছা, আমি
এখন
একটা মেসেজ দিয়েছি, আমি কিন্তু এর সাথে কথা বলতেছি ইপিজেড, একটা স্পেশাল ইপিজেড জার্মানিকে দেওয়ার জন্য, এবং আপনি কিছু মোবিলাইজ করেন কিছু ইনভেস্টর, আমিও এইদিকে ট্রাই করব।
জি স্যার, সেটা ওই কান্ট্রি স্পেসিফিক, যেটা ওই নাসিম মঞ্জুর ভাই বলেছেন, দ্যাট ক্যান বি ডান। এটা অবশ্যই এর আগে আলোচনাও হয়েছিল একবার 2010 সালে, যখন জার্মান পররাষ্ট্র সচিব বাংলাদেশে এসেছিলেন, ওনার সাথে আমাদের এখনো ভালো যোগাযোগ আছে। উনি বিষয়টা খুব উত্থাপন করেছিলেন। সেই সময় একটা খুব চাহিদাও ছিল যে জার্মানির জন্য একটা স্পেশাল ইকোনমিক জোন তৈরি করা। ওটা আমরা স্যার পরে আলাপ করবো না। এখন যেটা ইম্পর্টেন্ট স্যার, সেটা হলো ওই জার্মান একটা কেমিক্যাল কোম্পানি, ওরা বাংলাদেশে অনেকদিন যাবত এক্সপোর্ট করতেছে কেমিক্যাল, কিন্তু এখন ওদের ডিমান্ড বেড়ে যাওয়ার জন্য ওরা প্রোডাকশনে যেতে চাচ্ছে বাংলাদেশে, এবং স্পেসিফিকলি অনুরোধ করেছে ইপিজেড এর ভিতরে একটা প্রজেক্ট ওরা চাচ্ছে আর কি। সেটা ঢাকা ইপিজেড হতে পারে, আদমজি হতে পারে, হোয়াট এভার ইট ইজ। আমি জাস্ট স্যার আপনার নলেজ একটু দিয়ে রাখলাম। যদি
আমাকে একটু ওদেরকে একটা চিঠি লিখতে বলেন, আমি এটাকে মানে ফরওয়ার্ড
জি জি,
করে।
ওয়ান্ডারফুল, গুড আইডিয়া। জি, তারপর আপনি ফর্মালি ওটা লঞ্চ করতে পারবেন। জি, থ্যাংক ইউ স্যার। জি, থ্যাংক ইউ।
Thank you very much. Let's leave. Thank you.